Council meeting will start with the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance, followed by the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Most merciful and heavenly Father, we come now thanking you for your grace. We want to thank you for your mercy. Father, we want to thank you that you grant us the opportunity to serve your people. Father, I ask that you bind in our hearts and our soul that we may serve them, to give them the desires that they may stand in need of. And Father, that we do that with your guidance. Father, we ask that we all look to you for our decisions so that we may be fruitful in the decision that we make. These and all other blessings we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Hamilton. The adoption of the agenda, Mr. Stees, any changes, any additions?
No, ma'am.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. We have regular meeting minutes of January 11th. Were there any additions or changes to those from anyone? If not, is there a motion to approve those meeting minutes?
So move. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. We have, on a regular basis, employees, and I think tonight it's our PD. So is Chief Price, are you up?
Everybody but the PD.
Everybody.
Yeah, we have like,
Everybody but the PD.
we got like
Not your time this time.
we got like a 8-month backlog.
Right.
So,
Are you-
no, yeah, I think y'all introduced me at my first council meeting, so.
Who's doing this presentation?
Oh, I'm sorry, we have new hires, but not promotions.
Okay, introduction of new hire employees and recognition.
Yes.
So who's up?
Annie comes first.
Yep, Annie.
I think we need to open that door so they can.
Yeah.
I'll go to the back and.
Okay.
Who's going to introduce Derek with his new suit on?
You can. You can come down the runway.
And then once we introduce you, we'll come back here and tell who to come next.
Okay.
Sorry,
So is Annie in charge of this?
Sorry.
I don't.
So Annie is our new HR director.
Yes, so everyone at home can hear.
Yeah, so Annie's new HR director. She replaces Catherine, who retired, and her last day was Tuesday last week. So Annie's been with us for about a month, give or take. So she comes from Greece, New York, and she was HR director there. So we're excited to have her here and look forward to her serving as long or longer and as better as Catherine was, hopefully. So, I know, that's tough.
I
So,
have very large shoes to fill.
but we're excited to have her. All right.
Annie,
you.
welcome.
Thank you.
It is so great to be here. Thank you for having me.
And if you want to go back next is Melinda. So Melinda is a new hire in the executive office. So she is a part-time administrative assistant. She is Kim's right hand, and she has, how do I put it? She is she's raised the bar for all of us. She is great. If you've got to meet Melinda, I think everybody agrees that she's amazing. And she's responsible for making sure you have water and all your little snacks and everything set up. And she does a heck of a job, so we're excited to have her. Glad we could steal away from, she retired from being a school teacher at MC Riley last year, so we were able to get her part-time.
Thank you.
All right, Kevin. Or Kevin.
Take over.
Yeah, you got like the rest.
Okay, no, I have three, so
Bring them all
we're
up.
gonna bring them in. The first individual is Carrie Guzman, and she is our growth management coordinator. We were able to get her from Palmetto Breeze recently. She's been with us for about three months. She's doing a wonderful job whipping me into shape, so thankful that she's here.
Welcome, Carrie.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Diane Swanson. She's our part-time receptionist. She reports directly to Liz. And you came from Union County. She was a teacher, Charlotte, Union County area. So we're excited to have her here, and she helps out in the front desk.
Welcome.
And then last one is Dan Frazier. So Dan Frazier started yesterday. Dan is the principal. Yes, so he's our principal planner for land development. Dan has worked extensively in South Carolina as well as in Tennessee, most recently with the city of Beaufort as their senior planner. So we're very excited to have him on board, and we are dumping a lot of projects on him already. So,
Thank you.
all right.
Thank you.
Okay, that's all I had.
Oh, thank you, I have one. Okay. Appreciate it.
Good evening. Pleasure to see everyone. And we're going to go from one Dan who is 2 days old to another Dan who is nearly 2 years old. Dan Ryback, well, 2 years old with us. So Dan Ryback comes to us from Beaufort County last as their stormwater manager, but he joined us during the pandemic, and the last time that we had introductions in person, we were actually at a conference. So Dan comes to us, to the Lowcountry from Prince George's County with an extensive background in stormwater management, as well as in capital, as well as in public works. He's a jack of all trades and is working as our stormwater project manager, implementing drainage improvement projects, as well as May River Watershed Action Plan improvement projects.
Well, thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Looks like you
Boy, he looks good.
I'm not going to do this. I only have one. It's Rhonda Batiste. She came from Emmett, Idaho, where she worked for 20 years at Albertson Grocery Store. Population of 5,000 to 10,000 in this town. You might have noticed her. She actually started with us volunteering to help doing our Christmas tree lighting. So she helped decorate that and did a wonderful job and decided that she wanted to come work with us. And she said she would never see me in another suit again.
keep on the straight line. Welcome.
She's got the rest. She's bringing us home.
2 pages.
First off, we have Mr. Stephen Combs, our new emergency manager, and he reports directly to me. Mr. Combs was a public information officer with Anderson County before we talked him into coming here. And he was and is a part-time adjunct instructor for Texas A&M. So how long you been here, Stephen? About a month?
This will be week 4, fourth full week.
Fourth full week of our new emergency manager. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And we have Miss Hannah Anderson coming up to the podium here. She is our new community mental health advocate, and we're so excited to have Hannah, by the way. She's already done some amazing work, which I will update you on. She reports directly to Sergeant Ryan Fazika. She has a master's in clinical psychology, and she specializes in forensic psychology, and her degree's from Capella. And we're very excited to have her here. Before this, she was a recreation assistant for the Marine Corps in Japan.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Pleasure here.
You'll be hearing a lot more from Hannah.
We're excited too.
We're also excited to have Mr. David now Officer by the way, again. He actually retired at one point from New Jersey, and he was part of our Explorers Club, and we were, our Explorers Club from Boys and Girls. And we are so excited to welcome him here as an SRO. He recently got certified. How long has it been, David? Again, he got certified again in South Carolina.
Exactly.
A week?
A week, yeah.
About a week, okay. So he's getting to know the schools, and he's a school resource officer right now. So welcome very much, and we're glad to have you. And he'll be running the Explorers program again. So if you guys see him on social media, we are so glad to have him here helping us out with that.
And a child that went through the Explorers program, right?
Yes.
Hope so.
Just looking forward to it.
Thanks, David. All right, Sarah Schaefer. She's still going through her studies, and she will be going to the academy. So she's doing pre-academy right now, and she is actually in block 3 of 4. And you should know this, too. She's scored in the high 90s for all her stuff. They all told me about that today. So she's going to be a police officer 1, and she reports directly to Sergeant Dietz. She has a a bachelor's degree in business administration. And she was the lacrosse coach in New York and North Carolina.
Wonderful. You have a lot of kids that can use you.
She's working real hard, and she's working to get a date at the academy so she can go there and finish up her studies.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you guys. Nice to meet you.
Thanks. We have Margaret Mcneely's coming up next, and she goes by Dar. You may recognize her because this is her second time of working with Town of Bluffton. She used to be our school crossing guard, and she just couldn't stay away, so she came back, and we are super glad to have her. She's a part-time data entry clerk up front. And she reports to Lieutenant McCauley.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dar.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
James Perkins is up next. James is a police officer, too. He also reports to Sergeant Dietz. He came to us from NYPD. He was a police officer there, and he decided he wanted to come down to South Carolina where life is good, just so you know. He has an associate's degree in criminal justice. We're glad to have you. Thanks, James.
A little warmer here, right?
Nice to have you here, sir.
Dan, are you ready? Dan Marciano. He came to us from Oregon. He was a police officer in Oregon for 11 years. He is a police officer, too, here, and he reports directly to Sergeant Dietz. We're so glad to have you, Dan.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks, Dan. Samuel Driggers, come on down. We wore them all out today. They all went to jiu-jitsu. This is Sam Driggers. He's police officer 1, and he reports to Sergeant Michael Dietz. And he used to be a sales associate with VIII Infinity, and he was also with Cellular Sales. And we are so glad to have him here. He really works hard, and he studies hard, and he is ready to go. He's going to pre-academy right now before he gets his date. So.
Best of luck.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Sam. All right. Joseph Reinel is next. Joe's a police officer 1. He reports directly to Sergeant Dietz. He was a sheet metal worker before coming to us, and he also has mad HVAC skills. And he came to us from New York. And who is it that retired here? Is it your father-in-law?
My girlfriend's dad.
Your girlfriend's dad retired here to Bluffton and said, what did he tell you about working for Bluffton?
It's the best place to work in the world.
There you go. His girlfriend's father didn't want him to go into law enforcement, although he wanted to go in law enforcement. And finally, he called and said, we found you for a place to go to law enforcement, and that's Bluffton. So welcome, Joe. Thanks. Appreciate it. Thomas Rauschfoss. Hopefully I said that correct. Come on down, Tom. This is our new quartermaster and fleet manager. And how long has that happened? How long have you been here? 3 days. About 3 days. He's been here about 3 days, and we are really, truly happy to have him, too. He's already making a couple of good changes. He reports directly to Sergeant Dietz, and he, prior to this, was a logistics operations manager in the United States Marine Corps for 20 years. So he knows what he's doing, and he is more than happy to take over and make sure we're keeping things straight.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
See you later. J.C. Ruiz. J.C. is our new FOIA and records administrator, and she reports to Lieutenant McCauley. J.C., how long you worked here now?
2 days.
2 days. J.C.'s been here for 2 days, but don't think that she is new from the Lowcountry, because we stole her in sorts of ways, because she was the criminal records supervisor with the Beaufort County Sheriff's Department for 19 years.
Oh, wow.
Well, welcome to
And-
Bluffton.
Thank you.
We are so excited to have her and her knowledge here, and welcome very much,
Thank you
J.C.
so
We
much.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, J.C. All right, thank you very much. That's all from the new employees for the police department. Thanks, y'all.
That's enough.
Is that everything in that?
ma'am, that's everybody.
Thank you for all of that, and thank you for getting the public aware of who is now part of our town. Next, we have Beaufort County School District characters.
Character Student of the Month. She's not a character. And I don't have anything on her. So that's that darling face, and she looks like she goes to, I'm going to say Bluffton Elementary. Audrey Threat. She's in the 2nd grade at Bluffton Elementary, and her character trait for December was compassion. This is something, for those of you new, that the school district puts on, and they pick a child from every cluster from pre-K to senior in high school, and every month we love recognizing them. Hopefully in the next month or 2 months, we'll get them in here with their family and give them a proper thank you. But we're thrilled that she won it, and that sweet face, and we will get her a certificate and a coin and recognize her properly, hopefully down the road. Thank you. We are, let me get my thing. Next is, hold on, keep it up, public comment. Public comment is 3 minutes in length from the minute you start talking until we say thank you. Every member of the public who is recognized shall limit comments to the 3 minutes and observe the following protocols. Address council, and in speaking, avoid disrespect to council and any personalities. Confine themselves to questions under the jurisdiction of council, and just be mindful and respectful of those who were present. With that, you also can sign online. If y'all are new to this, you just have to be here to read it. We will not accept public comment that has been filled out online unless you're here to actually read it. So we will start tonight with Skip Hoagland. Please state your name and your address, and then you can proceed with your public comment.
Your speaker system's not working very well. I don't think anybody in the back can hear, so I'm going to try to speak up.
I'm
louder.
sorry.
Just restart the clock, because I haven't started yet, please, if you don't mind.
I'm not in control of the clock.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Evening. Skip Hoagland, Windmill Harbor. Ms. Sulka, I celebrated the $50 million award in your frivolous defamation lawsuit. Your ambulance chase and Murdoch lawyer was able to win this lawsuit purely on crocodile tears, emotions, drama, legal theatrical play, without any evidence or supporting law that I defamed you. I now get to sue you for the same $50 million in damage that I've suffered. In my opinion, the facts support that everything I said about you, Orlando and Finger, is true. I did not defame you. You defamed yourself because of your corruption, your lies, and your conflicts. Now the bar has been set at $50 million. Fair is fair. Expect the same $50 million against you for violating my First Amendment free speech rights, caught on video evidence. I believe your lawsuit was baseless, specifically filed to silence my voice, to obscenely profit you and your lawyers' corrupt pockets. It is my right under the law to honestly criticize public officials as I see fit. You may have a likable cheerleader personality, but your corrupt actions speak louder than your words. I contend you lied and committed perjury, which is a crime. You illegally did a membership drive using town employees to profit your crooked friend Bill Miles of the Hilton Head Bluffton Chamber that harmed your own official Greater Bluffton Chamber. You illegally used tax money to join the town of Bluffton as a Hilton Head Bluffton Chamber member, quid pro quo, not the legally operated Greater Bluffton Chamber, until I forced you and Orlando and Finger to support them. Please listen. You are illegally issuing aid tax funds to town DMO to illegally be used with zero accounting and violating aid tax laws. You are a full-time real estate agent, part-time mayor, using your insider status to profit your real estate business. Crooktown lawyer Finger used his insider position for his real estate development clients to profit. You both are in severe conflict. We need officials with no horses in the race who represent taxpayers' interests, not their own. Finger developed a fraudulent aid tax contract for the illegally operated Hilton Head Bluffton Chamber, scheme with the crooked town of Hilton Head lawyers Coltrane, Bush, and Gruber to help Bill Miles hide the millions in tax accounting. Finger lied when he claimed a lawsuit against me and all my FOIAs were designed for harassment versus justice. Also, both Judges Goldsmith and Murphy and the jury did not represent the rules of law. This is dangerous for all of us, for free speech and the press. It's dangerous. Ms. Sulka, I do not think that you, Finger, Orlando, are fit to serve, and I look forward to your $50 million lawsuit against you, not me. Clean up your act.
Meg James.
I still need to state my address.
If you wouldn't mind.
Good evening. My name is Meg James. I live at 8 Hartstone Circle. I'm the executive officer for the local Home Builders Association, representing over 450 building industry professionals that live, work, and play throughout all of Beaufort, Hampton, and Jasper counties. As an association, we have opposed the school impact fees from the beginning, sharing our concerns and providing loads of information for council members to review, backing our concerns. Like some of you, we were disappointed when the county decided to pass the school impact fees without the local IGAs in place with the town of Hilton Head, town of Bluffton, and city of Hardyville. It felt as if input from our organizations fell on deaf ears. And now as an outsider, it feels as if the county is forcing you to comply with their school impact fees or forfeit funding for projects within town limits. This is misleading to someone like me, since we are all so very aware that school impact fees have to be spent in a very specific way. For example, on expansion, either in the form of additional classrooms or schools. And it must be spent in the area in which it is collected, which currently is unincorporated Beaufort County south of the Broad. So if they're telling you that they will not fund your projects, where exactly will projects be funded south of the Broad? Tonight I also wear the hat of a fellow Town of Bluffton Affordable Housing Committee member. And I have to tell you that I'm worried about the private-public partnership projects we have been working on with a local team, because they will not be exempt from these fees. The fees that are for new homes, including mobile home units, are $9,535, and multifamily units, $4,508. Currently, a Town of Bluffton permit is running about $11,000 to $14,000, depending on the size of the home. After April 1st, that could potentially be $21,000 to $24,000. And let's talk about what that looks like folded into someone's 30-year mortgage. That 24 becomes 38, and that 9535 school impact fee becomes $15,413.91. Sure, the county says they will abide by their affordable housing ordinance, and folks can appeal to the county to have the fees waived if they are approved. These fees, because they have to be paid, I'm told, to come out of the county's general fund. But currently, there is no set amount, so you walk blindly into this, not knowing how many projects or people in need will be assisted. In the near future, when the cost to build with all the fees does not keep pace with the appraisal value, appraisals are based on recent resales, not new construction, we will see more and more short appraisals, and folks will be required to supply the difference in the cost per their loan to value. This will price our workforce out. A new teacher won't just walk away from their purchase, they'll walk away from one of our schools and potentially our Lowcountry altogether. In the state of Florida and upstate South Carolina, counselors are walking back their fees for various reasons. Wouldn't you hate for that to be us in the near future? We speak a lot about the negative impacts previous leadership decisions from 5 to 25 years ago have on what our citizens see being built here today. And I feel your frustrations with not having control. But I urge you to do whatever you can to better influence decisions that will affect us in the next 5 to 25 years. If you truly believe that these fees are the only way to skin the cat, then fight for our 80 to 120% AMI folks. And if the county refuses to accept your terms, find it within your own budget to right these financial burdens on our working class. And if you truly believe that certain county leadership will not be here in the near future, I urge you to put your foot down and demand that the reevaluation be given a specific date and that each participating municipality be legally obligated to participate.
I'm sorry. I've got to keep it across the board. That was really fast. And if you would give all your comments to Kim, we'll make sure they're in the record. So thank you. And I do not want to mispronounce your name, Carol Cajano? Cajano. Mm-hmm. Your name and your address, please, ma'am.
It is Carol Cajano, 10 China Cockle Way. I live in Hilton Head.
Yes, ma'am.
Got my own timer here. Okay, I'm here to address the council about the fact that towing companies engaged by the town of Bluffton to tow cars after an accident are taking advantage of and defrauding the public. I'm referring to the fact that when your car is towed after a traffic accident, within just a few days, the towing company can and will file papers to take possession of your vehicle title. When you go to retrieve your car and pay your bill, you will find that you've been charged an exorbitant fee for title processing. They do this without warning, regardless of whether they have a reason to believe that you'll fail to pay your bill, or whether they have reason to believe that you're going to abandon your vehicle, even if they know you and have contact information for you. You, as the vehicle owner, have no recourse. This amounts to, quite literally, highway robbery. This complaint stems from the fact that this happened to me. My car was towed after my husband had an accident this past December. And for a number of reasons, it stayed at the impound lot for 8 days. And when I went to pick up my car, I was told that I owed them $865. $395 of which was a title processing fee. When I objected to the fee, they gave me a discount of $200. As you'll recall, I sent you letters explaining the situation in a very reasonable way, logically and in detail. You turned the matter over to the police department, and I spoke first with Officer DeStasio, and I later had communication with Lieutenant Danyov. In both cases, I received no satisfactory answer explaining how such a practice could be considered ethical, nor why the town chooses to allow it to continue. The explanation I received was that this is standard practice. It seems to me that they are not the ones in need of protection, but he said they need to protect themselves from what I don't know. Not only do they charge you the fee, it's quite likely they never actually file for possession of your vehicle. They're not required to document the fact that they file any paperwork. They just slap you with the fee. I asked Officer DeStasio to request that the Union Towing Company provide him with documentation showing that they performed the title processing. And he told me that I would have to take that up with them. So I did, and they refused. I suspect it's because they never filed any paperwork. They just charged me the $395. So they had me over a barrel. I had to pick up the car. I don't think I had any choice legally. 10 seconds?
10 seconds.
All I'm asking is that the council move to address the issue and update town ordinances to protect the public from what amounts to extortion. And I have all the pertinent details which have been in my letters, as you guys all know. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Public comment is over. Are there any communications from mayor and council and any perhaps committees that y'all been part of that you want to give an update on?
Mayor, I'm going to bring something before the council maybe in a week or two just to get the information out. It's regarding the Lowcountry Council of Governments, and we had an executive meeting recently, and it pertained because the census came out, and so some questions were raised about the allocation of the number of sitting members to the board. We reviewed that as an executive committee, and as I say, we'll be coming out. The recommendation was made from the director, but I will be sharing that with all of council soon, just to be aware of it. And I guess the oversight of it all is we hope to limit the board size because as populations continue to grow, we couldn't manage it. I mean, there's not enough room to put any more board members in that body. There's already like 30 or 31 in there, and it becomes unmanageable. So anyway, that recommendation will be coming out very soon for council to entertain. Thank you.
For sitting on that board. Dan, anything, Mr. Hamilton?
Yes. Meg, thank you for your comments, and I heard you loud and clear. Ms. Pajano, I truly feel your pain, and I think this council is going to do something to make sure that doesn't happen to somebody else. Thank you.
Anyone on this side, committees or anything from council?
No, I just wanted to say thank you for bringing that out of our attention. There are some things that we got to relook at.
I appreciate that.
We are working on it.
You have anything, Bridget?
Yes, I just wanted to thank Public Works and the town of Bluffton for recognizing Black History Month with the beautiful banners that are adorning the poles. There are two events that will take place in Bluffton in celebration of Black History Month. One will be on February the 24th at Burn Church Distillery, and it's called A Night in Harlem, a 1920s event that's a celebration of the Harlem Renaissance. And the second event will be on February the 26th at the Bluffton Rotary Center beginning at 12 o'clock, and that's a celebration of African-American authors, and it will feature Bakari Sellers, New York best-time-selling author, with his recent book, Who Are Your People? And both events are free, so if you're interested, definitely come out and celebrate with us. Thank you.
Great. It does take public comment to sometimes know we need to re-look at issues, and it's a perfect time on everything that has to do with town with our strategic plan coming up a week from today. Please follow us along on our website if you'd like to do some streaming. I don't know what we'll do in terms of how many seats are available, but it is at Oscar Fraser Park, right, Stephen? So it'll be at Oscar Fraser Park, plenty of room. Please come. It's very interesting. It talks about really our roadmap for the next year. And those are times we look at all of our ordinance budgets coming up. We'll check all of our ordinances again, and we do need your respectful comment, and I appreciate you for that, for doing that. So if nothing else, we will move on to public hearing and final reading. We have 3 items that are for public hearing, and I don't believe we have any comment on that, but we'll call it out anyway. First is Michelle Knight, consideration of Town of Bluffton needs assessment for housing, public facilities, and economic development. While you're coming up, Michelle, I will call, do we have a public hearing for this? I'll call first, call for public comment at this public hearing for our needs assessment. Second, call for comment on the public hearing for our needs assessment. Third and final call for public comment during the public hearing for our Bluffton needs assessment. Public comment is closed. You are, and public hearing is closed. You're up. You're getting shorter and shorter every time. I know you're going to.
I know. And before I start, I'm going to say that we have Liz with us in the back to interpret for anyone who needs assistance with Spanish-speaking, with the language for us to hold the public.
Is there anyone who needs assistance with the Spanish language? Liz, thank you for being here for that purpose. Thank you.
All right.
I don't know what you just said.
I don't know that.
Anyway, we're going to try to hurry through this. First off, as we're required to every year, we are going to do our brief advertisement to remind everyone that the town of Bluffton does not discriminate against the protected classes in the sale and rental of housing and residential real estate transactions or in brokerage services in their housing activities in the town. If someone contacts, what am I pointing this to make it turn? I know, but what do I point it at to make it? Okay, that way. Then, anyway, if anyone contacts town staff or town council and says, hey, I think I've been discriminated against, please have them contact us at Lowcountry Council of Governments, and we will discuss the matter with them and forward it on to the proper groups to have it investigated if need be. Mercy.
Tommy just has to stand up.
He just has to stand up.
There, just point at him. He'll click
Okay,
it.
keep going. For right now, hit it one more time. The state CDBG program is required to meet low to moderate income benefit, and for right now in Beaufort County, low to LMI in Beaufort County is $62,000 for a 4-person household. The numbers go up or down based on the number of people in your home. 51% of the people that are benefiting from your projects have to meet this income requirement. Let's move ahead. Keep on. We're expecting this year to receive $20.1 million in CDBG funds through the state. This is through their regular program. This has nothing to do with any ARPA funding. This is just regular program discussion. Move ahead. Move ahead. There are 3 broad program categories. Again, they're community development, business development, and regional planning, which covers us to come hold these public hearings and have meetings with your staff for project development. And this is all the big information. We have in community development basically 4 set-asides. There is community infrastructure, which is our spring funding round. This is our water, sewer, drainage round. There's approximately $11.3 million allocated to this. We have a mid-March application request and a mid-April application deadline. Maximum funding amount is $750,000. but we can ask for waivers up to $1 million. Our second set aside is community enrichment. This is our fall facilities round. We usually do things in here like demolition projects, expansion of libraries, downtown streetscape improvements, transportation-oriented public facilities. We can purchase fire trucks or do fire substations, and public facility modifications to facilities that serve a majority low to moderate income clientele. So we can't do modifications, not that you need it to your beautiful town hall. There's a maximum here funding amount of $500,000 with the exception of streetscape projects where we can ask for up to $750,000. We also have a special project set aside. This is also a fall round with a mid-August request and mid-September full application deadline where we can do smaller innovative projects that address economic development, historic preservation, parks, trails, and greenways. The maximum in this program now has been bumped to $250,000 or in this project set aside. Hit it again. Okay. Our final fall round that we want to discuss is neighborhood revitalization. There is a $1 million set aside for this program. Again, August, September deadlines. With this, like your Goethe Schultz project, you have to have a neighborhood plan, and we go in and we address all the issues of the neighborhood. So this could mean infrastructure items. It could mean demolition. It could mean some limited housing rehabilitation. It could mean some small public service things like Crime Watch programs, those sorts of things. Our maximum funding amount here is $500,000, except if infrastructure is one of your activities. We've come to realize in recent years that when we're doing water, sewer, or drainage, that a $500,000 project, that particular activity can eat up a budget quickly. So they have allowed us to go up to $750,000 for a project if we're including that activity. The remaining set aside here is ready to go. This is our non-competitive set aside. We basically make an application 30 days after a request, and it can be for anything that we do in community infrastructure or community enrichment, but we only can apply for up to $500,000. And basically, we have to have all of our activities done, our environmental review, our design work, our permitting work, but for having a check in your hand, you could bid the project and do it tomorrow is how that works. So you have to have, basically, as it says, everything ready to go. All of our national objectives, we have to meet one of the three. We either have to benefit low to moderate income persons, we have to aid in the prevention of slum and blight, or we have to meet an urgent community need. And again, as always, there's a 10% match requirement on all projects. Move ahead, we'll skip that. Some of the scoring has changed slightly in recent years. We get bonus points if our projects are in opportunity zones. Let's move ahead. And we also have performance thresholds, which we've always had. You can have no more than 3 or 2 open and active projects, not including economic development projects or regional planning projects, in order to be able to apply at most. So if you have 2 open projects and they're not over 30 months, you don't have more than 1 neighborhood project, you don't have more than 1 ready-to-go project, and you don't have more than 1 project that's in the same general area unless it's under construction, you can apply for another project. Right now, Town of Bluffton does have 2 open active projects. One of them, I think, is close to our 30-month threshold, so we really need to get it closed, and then we'll be in good shape to make another application in. Let's move ahead. Also, briefly to talk about it, we do still have our home consortium, which includes all of our communities. And we have 3 objectives, or 3 main objectives right now: rehabilitation of substandard housing, increasing accessibility to adequate and affordable housing, and supporting development and availability of safe, decent, and affordable housing. We do ask, outside of your ranking, that if you have any comments about these objectives or any additional objectives that you would like us to consider in our action plan process, which we do in April, to contact Barbara Johnson in our office about that. And we can move on ahead. That would be the end of my formal presentation. I'm sorry, I'm trying to go fast.
No, we always have questions when you come. So
But if you have questions, I'll be glad to answer them. And I think that staff has a recommendation for ranking, because I know y'all usually do that on the same night, whether you do it here or further down in your agenda.
I just got one question, or you got somebody over there?
No, I was just asking if we had the recommendation for ranking, but we'll get it. You ask a question. Ask one.
When you were talking about the, I think it was up to $1 million or $500,000 or something for historical structures, reservations?
It's 250,000 for, that's in special projects.
And that, does that have to be in the LIM area?
It has
With
to
that
be either in
qualification
a low to
also?
moderate income community, or the structure has to be something that, once it's stabilized, would benefit a low to moderate income group. So like, you couldn't do it, I know we've had some discussions over the years with a couple of historically significant buildings that the town has. Like, I think at one time we talked about maybe the Hayward House. I know y'all use that as a visitor center. That's kind of a general purpose. It would be hard to make that fit under that umbrella. The projects that we've done, just as information, or that we've gotten funded, have been typically we've gotten an application or received funding for a Rosenwald school in Hampton County, in a community that's majority low to moderate income, to stabilize that building. It's one of the last ones left standing in our region. And then we had another older school building that was, I think, 120 years old, actually in the town of Ridgeland, but that project was terminated for convenience because there was a change in administration and a change in a decision as to how they were going to use the building.
Thank you.
I have a question, Michelle, and thank you for coming all the way here to do this. The home fund, I watch the numbers come out every year, and, it's limited in the sense that there's not that much funding allocated from up above coming down through. And I think it, maybe 4 houses a year, 1 in each county or something like that.
Well, it's more than 4, but it's not a lot
not
when you
much.
think about the money, because there's a big need, and there are some constraints that we have as far as the program in terms of what qualifies as a house that we can work on. So.
Yeah, the reason I bring it up is I'm just curious with the ARPA funds and all of the things that have been coming down the pipe. Is there any increase expected?
The ARPA funds that the region, the consortium is receiving for the region, I think total roughly $2 million in project funds, but they are very specific about what we can use them for. We're going to have to address housing issues related to homelessness. So that means we would have to be doing congregate housing or non-congregate housing, mean shelters or non-congregate housing, or other activities that will prevent homelessness or help people who are at risk of being homeless, which is a little bit different from what we've been doing in our regular program, which is primarily owner-occupied, single-family rehab, and then with our community housing development organizations, like our habitat groups, providing money for materials for them to do new construction housing. Those have been the main activities that we've been doing in the regular home set aside for a while.
Thank you.
Question, Mr. Hamilton?
If there was a private homeowner that fall into the low to moderate income and have one of those historical structures that's in the town limit and in our historic community, do they come to you for help, or do they come to us to get to you?
They come from a number of ways. I mean, sometimes they come through town staff or board members or council members who have had a call from a constituent to say, hey, I have this problem with my house. Sometimes they call us directly. Sometimes, because a lot of these people are elderly, it may be that we get a call through our Human Services Department and an assessment's done, and while that department has a minor repair program where they can go in and do a ramp or fix a bathroom or something like that, they can't fix everything, so they may refer them over to us. So they come from any number of ways. Sometimes it's someone down the, Mrs. Smith down the road had her house done. I talked to a lady last week. Her neighbor down the road had her house done, and she wanted to know how she could get hers done. I mean, simple things like that.
And are you fine them calling you? Like, should they call us and we come to you? Because I'm sure.
If they call y'all, the easiest thing would be have them call us directly rather than you be in the middle of it, so that kind of takes you out of it. Once you get a call like that, just give them our number.
Well, you come and make the presentation. I know I look at it, except I've seen it so many times that people think it's money out there, but again, it has to go through the town, right?
Well,
and it has to be LMI, an income level.
Well, with CDBG, it goes through the town because the town is the grantee.
Right.
But with home program funds like Mr. Hamilton was talking about, that is something that is done directly through us because we're doing scattered site throughout the 4-county region. It's not really a town or a county that's signing that. Beaufort County, who is our lead entity, signs those homeowner agreements with the homeowner. So we could be doing a house in Bluffton. I think we have, I know we have before, but we can be doing a house in Bluffton, but the town of Bluffton wouldn't necessarily be signing anything. Now, it may be that the town of Bluffton's talking with us about it, because if it's somebody maybe that came through their program or they received funding through your NAP program, that we may have some discussions.
What about people who have moved in the area? I'm just going to throw out Buck Island, just put Buck Island. We could do all of them, but we've done a lot of the sewer there, and it's already in. Now we have a new family that's moved into a home, and their income's less than maybe the people before them that didn't qualify. How do we go back and, is that a town initiative to go back and double check, or how do you handle some like that with laterals and tap-ins and things?
The problem with the laterals and the tap-ins is, if we're doing a project and they move in when we're doing the project and we can capture them and their income qualifying, then yes, the grant will pay for the lateral up to their house. Beaufort Jasper cannot charge us a fee to connect them. I think they don't waive fees, because they'll tell you that they don't waive fees, but it's worked out in a manner so that the grant's not paying Beaufort Jasper $3,000 or $4,000 to connect somebody.
Okay.
We already have that for people who qualify. The lateral and all.
But
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I knew that, but
in the case of your example, we have a neighborhood out there where maybe the house was vacant, so we didn't do anything to it. Somebody moves in it, their income qualifying, but the contractor's left, the project's closed and all that. Really, there's not a way for us to do that. Home, if they're income qualifying, and they have things that they need done to their house beyond that, beyond running a line to the house, it may be that there would be an opportunity to do something. Like, say, the house needed some work anyway. I don't know, maybe it needed a roof, something like that, where if we go in and we touch it, we've got to touch everything.
Okay.
But if it's just somebody moving in and they just don't quite make the limit, they have to work that out with Beaufort Jasper unless there's something that y'all do locally.
There's so much that we've done. I just know there's some that fell through the cracks and moved in.
Right.
I just want to help everyone.
Right.
Anything else for Michelle? Question one?
Stony Creek?
I can ask. So we have a big initiative right now with a campground, which actually is affordable housing for a
Okay.
lot of people. And it's a partnership with Beaufort, Jasper, the county, and the town. The people living there, I would think majority would fall under that. They're campers, but we're trying to put sewer there. How would you fit into this?
Is that,
Stony Creek.
I was fixing to say, is that Stony Creek? Because
We've
I
only
think
been
we've talked-
talking about it for 15 years.
Well, I mean, Beaufort County has talked to us about that before.
Okay.
And that's probably something that we could roll up and discuss with the state. I have no doubt, because I think I rode by there. I went and looked at it one time after the discussion originally came up. I don't really think, I think it would definitely qualify. The question is whether or not the state will accept that those are permanent residences. And that's where the discussion has to be had.
Okay.
Because, I mean, I know they're their permanent residences, but the fact of the matter is they could be pulled up and moved off.
True.
So that's where the issue comes in there, but we can certainly have that discussion with them.
We'll get Mr. Steese to get with you and at least know that the town is equally as interested as the county. So
Okay.
maybe we can all meet together at some point.
And then there have been a few other neighborhoods that probably just border the town. I think we've talked about Devonwood before. Off of I think it's off of Burnt Church Road, on the opposite side of the road. It might be a little donut hole, I'm not sure. And I actually had a call and discussed this with the engineering department from an area that I think is a donut hole too, and I can't remember the name of the area, but it's a donut hole off of Buck Island, Simmonsville.
Windy Lakes. There's several that
Yeah.
just didn't get it. Okay, so we had last year, thank you. Last year, we prioritized 4 areas. It doesn't mean that the bottom one's not going to get attention, but we just have to do this. And we've been pretty consistent for the last 3 years. The ranking over the last 3 years has been infrastructure improvements, including sewer, water, and drainage, transportation and pedestrian safety, affordable housing for low to moderate income, residential rehab, and restoration of properties or facilities. That was our ranking last year. Is there a change? Do y'all want to make a change on that? If not, I'll ask if y'all want to make a motion of ranking the same way. Everyone happy with that ranking?
I got to put my affordable house cap on. I think I'd like to see one of the last 2, either affordable housing for low to moderate income or residential rehab, be moved up in the ranks.
To make that motion, because I think they're all important. So how about, is there a motion to keep the same ranking but move affordable housing and residential rehab to 2 and 3 and put transportation as 4?
I make that
Would
motion.
that help y'all? Is that?
Say that again, I can't see
Well,
what-
you'd have infrastructure, affordable housing, residential rehab, transportation and pedestrian, then restoration of properties or facilities.
I saw one that said sidewalks and public safety.
Oh, I don't see, I'm looking at the old.
Sidewalks.
So y'all have a different
It's transportation
request?
and pedestrian safety.
Are these a ranking or are these just our priorities?
The second one, Larry.
I have
Transportation and
ranking here.
pedestrian.
It's not a specific, they're not
They're
1
just
through 5,
listed.
they're just your 5 priorities. They are all considered
Equally important.
equally important. We're not gonna say that we're only gonna go after this one or this one. They're all our top, they're all priorities in the council sees.
Okay, I do hear you, but we've never, ever been told that before.
Okay.
So we've always ranked them, right?
Well, you need to rank 3 general needs priorities. Those are the things that we focus on.
And the reason that affordable housing has typically been at 3 or 4 is because of the fact that there are very little opportunities in the CDBG program to pursue housing activities. They're usually minor things connected to a bigger project, because CDBG does not do housing anymore as a major project.
But it doesn't make it, if something was on one of those programs you talked about, we wouldn't say, oh, list number 3, we're not going after it, because that's in our strategic plan of our mission.
Right.
And it doesn't matter to me how they're ranked, because I know they know how we feel.
I think they're ranked
so.
pretty well as far as I'm concerned with not saying that I like the transportation pedestrian safety to stay in the top 2, because that affects everyone and not just one small area. You know what I mean? It's whatever y'all want to.
But we need to rank them.
I think
so.
what am I hearing that we were supposed to rank them or not? I'm under the impression I heard that they all have equal weight.
No, we're supposed to rank them.
We need to rank them. So,
I apologize.
Which
No,
one do you
you're
want to move to
fine.
second, Fred?
it was,
Fred is saying move 3 and 4 up in replace of transportation and pedestrian safety and move it to number 4. So affordable housing and residential rehabilitation would become 2 and 3.
so a compromise would be to move it up, put transportation in the middle, and keep it as the top 3.
Based on the survey, if I remember correctly, transportation and those type items and affordable housing were the top 2 items.
From your community survey?
Yeah, community
Yes, sir.
survey.
So would y'all be okay to rank to,
Slide the infrastructure down to number 3, slide the other 2 up.
Realistically, the top 2, I mean, if you do water and sewer in an area, you're more than likely going to do sidewalks at the same time while you're in there anyway, as
Right.
far as pedestrian safety. And we can't use this type of stuff in the middle of Old Town or anything where it doesn't qualify anyway. So
So-
it doesn't matter.
okay, so
to me, it's-
is there a motion to rank the following way? Transportation and pedestrian safety, affordable housing, residential rehab, infrastructure improvements, and restoration of properties or facilities.
I make that motion.
Here a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Everything's still important to us. We just have to put a number by it. Any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
You'll have it clearer next year.
No, ma'am. It's fine. It's just 15 years of this. I knew we had to rank them. You're good. Who is, I just lost my, hold on, let me get back to agenda, if I can find it. Next, it is a public hearing and final reading on item number 2, consideration of an ordinance approving the annexation of approximately 9.27 acre town-owned property located at 115 Bluffton Road and identified by the tax number on the agenda. This is public hearing and final reading. I will call for public comment on this item. Is there anyone that'd like to speak to this item at public comment at this time? Second reading for anyone who'd like to speak at public comment on this item. Third and final call for whomever would like to come speak at public comment on this one item. Public hearing is closed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And if you could, so items 2 and 3 on your agenda, the presentation is together. So if you could do a public hearing for item 3 as well, please, and then we'll do the presentation.
Thank you. I would have done it right there, but that's perfect. And we also have a public hearing on item number 3, which is the ordinance approving an amendment to the Town of Bluffton zoning map to incorporate and designate certain real property owned by the Town of Bluffton consisting of approximately 9.27 acres on 115 Bluffton Road. Public hearing is open. Is there a public comment on this item? Second call for public comment on this item. Third and final call for public comment on this item. Public hearing is closed. We still have to vote on these separately, though, right?
Yes, ma'am, 2 votes. So this was presented at the December 14th Town Council meeting. There are no changes except for you had requested that South Carolina right-of-way area was also included in the map. So that portion has been included. And then if you so choose, I'm happy to do the presentation again. If not, I've got the 2 motions up here for you on your screen.
Anybody have need for any other answers to his questions, or anybody need anything else?
No. We like you, Kevin, but no.
Yeah, we try.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Unless you just won't.
I got 40 slides back there for you.
We've been
Ready.
We've done this before.
So on item number 2, is there a motion to approve second and final reading of the ordinance approving the annexation of an approximately 9.27 acre town-owned property located at 115 Bluffton Road and identified by the Beaufort County tax map as shown? via the 100% petition and ordinance method into the town of Bluffton corporate limits.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Number 3, do y'all need any more information on number 3? If not, is there a motion to approve second and final reading of the ordinance approving a zoning map amendment to designate certain real property owned by the town of Bluffton, consisting of approximately 9.27 acres, more or less, located at 115 Bluffton Road and identified by the tax map listed as general mixed-use zoning?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you very much,
Great. Thank you, ma'am.
Kevin, for that. Next, we have formal agenda items. Item 1 is consideration of the ordinance amending the Town of Bluffton 2022 budget to provide for the expenditures of certain funds and to allocate sources of revenue for said funds. You're lucky, this is the second reading as well. There were no changes, there were no additions or any corrections that needed to be made on first reading.
The only change was inadvertently the money from Hargrave was noted as utility tax credits, but it was not. It was a pure community donation.
Wonderful, and that's fine to change without.
Yes.
Great. Okay. Any questions of Mrs. Chris? Glad you're stepping in for him. Okay. So this is second reading, and if I can go to it, unless
It's down there a little ways.
no, I can really go to it. Is there a motion to consider the ordinance amending the Town of Bluffton fiscal year 2022 budget to provide for expenditures for certain funds and to allocate sources of revenue for said funds?
So moved.
There's second. Any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Item number 2, consideration of an intergovernmental agreement between Beaufort County and the Town of Bluffton for the purpose of imposition and collection at the time of issuance of building permit of school development impact fees on all new residential development within the Town of Bluffton. Heather,
Okay, thank
you're
you.
by yourself tonight.
Pardon me?
You're by yourself.
I'm by myself. I'm by myself. Okay. So this is the intergovernmental agreement between the town and Beaufort County for the collection of school development impact fees only. So just a little bit of background. Prior to 2016, there was no ability to charge an impact fee for schools. So that came about in 2016. The changes to the act were made that municipalities could not municipalities, but that fee could be imposed for certain improvements, which are listed there from the law. Fast forward to July 2020, Tischler Bice was contracted to conduct a school impact fee study and capital improvement plan. And that's where you've heard me do presentations on this before and with the county, where those needs were identified and the costs associated with that, and all of that data was collected, and they did all that background work. The impact fee ordinance itself is actually a Beaufort County ordinance. There's no action on the actual ordinance from town council, but the dates for Beaufort County are listed there. Their effective date was June 28th, 2021 for the school development impact fees. And then fast forward to you and town council, you initially did consider the intergovernmental agreement back in May 11th of last year with some conditions. Again, this is kind of where everything stems from, this plan. It is in your packet if you have questions about that. I know Dr. Rodriguez and representatives from the school district as well as the county were here last month to go through some of those in more detail. This here is that study area. If you recall in the plan, the south of the broad service area was identified as the area that would charge those school development impact fees. So you'll see on that map, the south, that encompasses obviously the town of Bluffton, unincorporated Beaufort County, portions of the city of Hardeeville, as well as the town of Hilton Head Island. And this is the area that the fees are collected and also where the fees are used for those school impact fees. And they are currently being collected for unincorporated Beaufort County only at this time. In that report, these are the proposed projects that the fees would be used to construct and build. Some of those already have been completed. When I did talk to the school district about, well, what would that mean for the calculation? Based on the estimate that they've calculated and the anticipated growth, they would still be short some of those funds, so they believed it would not affect the fees. These are the fees that we've talked about. Should you approve the intergovernmental agreement, the fees that would be collected and charged would be at the time of building permit application, new single-family unit, you can see that number there, and then multifamily would be charged a little bit over $4,500, and that's for all new units. So replacement would not be charged that fee, however, new units would.
Quick question, Heather. Clarify, right now that fee is $3,500, right?
Right now, this fee is zero. We do not
So
collect
this
additional.
9 is added on to the.
Correct.
The 35 that's there now.
Right.
Remains.
Correct. All the current impact fees that we currently are collecting for, so the transportation, traffic, the fire fee, things like that, those remain the same at this point. This is a new fee. So right now, this is zero for the town of Bluffton. So like I said, back in May, I did present to you the intergovernmental agreement between the town of Bluffton and Beaufort County. There were some proposed revisions at that time related to affordable housing and what fees would be collected. Those are the two revisions that you had requested are listed there on the screen that address those different income classifications. After further discussion, Beaufort County had indicated in their attorneys with discussions with Terry Finger, the town attorney, that the provisions for 60% below AMI could be waived through their ordinance, and however, any additional waivers and reductions would have to come from an alternate funding source. In the agreement, the draft agreement that you have in your packet, there is still the provision for that 60% reduction for 80% below. So that is still something that is recommended to move forward with and discuss with the county to maintain in the agreement. There's also more description as far as any additional waivers we would like to be considered. However, it's understood that they would have to come from other funding sources. So another request that we have is that within the agreement that there's an effective date that's captured there. Just what is proposed, if approved, would be no earlier than April 1st. And this is simply to allow for informational and public notice to be provided so that we can get our procedures in place and that we could notify our applicants, our residents, future residents, and developers that that fee is coming, or the Beaufort County, when their ordinance was adopted, it was effective immediately. So absent any additional language, if you were to approve it, it would be effective immediately. Again, this is just an example of proposed recommended motion. Like I said, there's lots of information in that report and in that agreement that I'm happy to address, or Richardson LaBruce is here, can assist with the legal language. Terry Finger did pull that agreement together. And like I said, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Questions? Mr. Hamilton?
Two readings on
Did Hilton Head or Hardyville have a chance to vote on this yet?
No, they have not. I believe the town of Hilton Head is anticipating that to be later this month at a meeting. However, the city of Hardyville does not have a meeting scheduled at this time.
That was said that would be happening before, last month, it was to be happening right around now, and I think Hilton Head had their first meeting, I think they had a meeting today. So I have a question for clarity, because I do, whatever we decide to do, and the county is very focused on it, they have said, and I want to make sure this is true, any annexations will get charged that fee, right?
Correct, and that is a current, I guess, provision of the law that if they were to annex in, they still have to pay the fees because they would have to pay that school impact fee today versus if they're in the town of Bluffton.
Because the county, it was originally the county, okay. Okay, I just wanted to figure that out. Questions? Yes.
Yeah, I do have a question. in terms of if we were to deny this, what financially would become the ramifications against the town in that, in terms of what the impact fee would be?
From what I understand, and Richardson can correct me if I'm wrong or fill this in, is that there would not be any improvements or projects within the town of Bluffton because we would not be collecting any of the fees. Where the funding, if there were to be improvements, would come from, I do not know.
I don't think it's necessary. It's not a part of state law or the ordinance that they wouldn't do any sort of improvements in this area. Although the impact fees do need to go to the area in which they're collected. I think the idea is that these funds are needed to support the school services south of the Broad. That's the county's position and the school district's position. And, the financial ramifications, it's not necessarily that the town will then have to provide that difference, but it's going to be whether it's coming from penny sales tax or other revenue streams. So I think the school district and the consultants have recommended this approach.
Gotcha. Because I hear what their recommendation is, but I'd just like to go on record and commenting. I see this as being would be a direct issue or another thing that pushes our community currently even below the 80% majority hourly worker service in this area, would deny them the ability to be able to afford housing, because the current impact fees are a bit much for them. So to double that, definitely puts them in danger, and I wouldn't be in favor of that.
A couple of questions. Dan, did you have anything? Or?
I do.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. And first of all, Meg, I want to thank you for all the work you've been doing, and she's been reaching out to council to push her points across, and they've all been heard. This has been agonizing, needless to say. We've drugged this out for a long time as a council, and we don't take it lightly to increase impact fee funding for our citizens in any way. But this all resonates, again, about, for those who don't know, Act 388, State House passed that law years ago, and it's just put us all in this conundrum that we're in. And so the taxing of the support for schools is not there the way it should be. So people have to make up the difference somehow, as Mr. Richardson said, through bonds or tax increases or some way or another. And we're always at the will of the voters. When you ask for a tax increase, you don't know whether you'll be able to sustain that idea or not. And so I find it to be a true conundrum that we not only harm our citizens with increased cost for housing, but also harm to our schools if we don't take the adequate steps to fund them properly. That being said, the things that are in the agreement, if I understood them correctly, Mr. Richardson, maybe you can help me, you or Heather, we had indicated that we wanted a 5-year review. Is that in writing in there somewhere that we know that we can have a 5-year review?
Yeah.
I don't remember seeing it.
Let me look through that just to make sure. I don't
Okay.
remember seeing it either.
My recommendation would be, and the council would have to support it, that we wanted a 5-year review, and we would like to have that opportunity to come back at the end of 5 years and make sure it's working for us and working for them and working for the school system. The second part of it that gives me heartburn, and it may have been carryover from the original manual of the impact fees that go back about 14 or 15 years ago as written, and I don't know if this was in there or not, it might have been, but the county has the authority to increase the impact fee funding at their leisure up to 50% without any input from the town council whatsoever. I have heartburn with that. I would never give an open-ended up to 50% increase without any input from this council whatsoever. I think they should have to come back and ask us for that.
So as far as the imposition of an impact fee, obviously this is a county impact fee. It is not a town impact fee. So the county ultimately gets to set it subject to the intergovernmental agreement where y'all agreed to collect it at the time of the issuance of a building permit. Looking through the agreement and looking through the ordinance before this meeting, I didn't see a provision that would allow them to increase it 50%. It does give them, in the ordinance, it's built in that inflation, to keep up with inflation, they're allowed to increase it, or it's mandatory that it be increased to keep up with inflation. But I did not see the 50% in the ordinance, but it could be part of the, as you mentioned, Councilman Wood, the impact fee. I'm drawing a blank. Was it the policy that they have from 15 years ago? And maybe they built that in with the transportation fee or the road fee.
Take a look back. I mean, we can't do it right this minute,
Absolutely.
but look back through there, because I saw something in there to that. Now, maybe it's a carryover. I don't know whether I saw it on page 310. I was looking at section 4, but some other areas where I made my notes underneath that. But if we could check that, and then and we'll have time to know that by the time of our next meeting, I would hope.
I've heard a couple of concerns and not sures that I've really thought, just to know for truth. I mean, just to have the facts about it. And I know we asked those questions, not to you, Heather, to the group that was here. And I guess we just need to make sure of all that.
If I may, real quick, on page section, I think it's under section 5, page 310 or 311, Beaufort County Municipality School Impact Fee, IGA, proposed revisions to October 1, it says, item 3, the amount of the impact fee adjustment does not change the school development impact fees by more than 50% from the fee amount set forth in ordinance blah, blah, 2020. It says this adjustment may be done only once during the term of the agreement. I may misinterpreted that, but that's where I read that.
I think your interpretation is correct. It looks like it's a adjustment for 50%. So
Without consent from this council.
That is a one-time, and looking at this right now, is the county may adjust the amount of the school development impact fee without the prior agreement of the town, if up to 50% one time during the term of the agreement.
I'm through, Mayor.
Did you ask questions? Did you ask questions? Because I'm going to go through. You asked one question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me go through. Bridget, you've asked a question. Larry, you have.
Yeah, I got some questions and concerns. One being, one of my biggest ones is I've asked the question, and I also watched the presentation from whatever the name of the company that did the thing. We've got increases coming for fire departments. What else? There's roads. We've got increases according to their study, and substantial increases coming right around the corner, apparently. So for me to say, okay, well, I support this, knowing our situation, I feel like it'd be smarter to see the whole package. Don't approve a $9,000 increase today, and then they come tomorrow and say, well, whether you like it or not, here's 4 more to go on top of that 9. And I'm just using those rough numbers, but that's when I watched that long speech or presentation, if you guys did, that's what I got out of it. It was like, this school is the biggest increase or the most critical at this time, but within the next 10 years, was this a 10 or 20-year study or whatever, everything's got to change really, really soon. So, we could stop building houses, and then we won't have the schools getting any overcrowded, and we won't need the fee. If we're going to continue to build, then we got to have the schools. So I'm not ready to say yes or no, really, but I do feel like we should see what they're going to be bringing us in the next few months or within the next year, so that we can look at it collectively and see the real number instead of 9 plus 7 equals 16. That's where I'm at.
May I respond, Mayor? Help me with this, and I hear your argument, and it's a good argument. And I think another one's solid waste, isn't it? Wasn't there something about solid waste coming up at some point?
That was on there at some point, but I think that has since been
Okay,
removed from ours.
but anyway, any increase in these other impact fees still has to come through IGA.
Correct.
So they can't do it. I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say, this discussion needs to come to a head one way or the other, I think, with this council. And those other ones, we can take those battles as they come, because this has been going on. What was it? They signed, the county made their deal back in the middle of last year.
It was October, I think.
So, I'm saying that the other ones, Larry, we have say in those other ones. We have input. We don't have to sign them for their increases.
But I mean, okay.
I think there are enough questions that, and not to put it on you for one more month, and I know you want some action items on what you can help, but it sounds like with questions from Fred and Dan and concerns and not sure, I'm listening to our smaller business owners and, that maybe this can be really absorbed from these bigger builders, maybe. Who knows? I think it's exorbitant, but I think it just kills our affordable housing. It kills it. And I called Fred today and I said, he's always said the 100 to 120 LMI is covered. Well, that's not covered anymore. No one's building those anymore. So we got to look at a bigger affordable housing program to cover everyone that we want to keep here. And I think if the suggestion was to table it, and if y'all don't have a problem with that, table it and get these answers back. Best you can, we can go through the bullets again.
Okay, I was
so
gonna
you
say,
know,
if you
because
could let
I've
me know
seen
your
both of y'all.
Stephen, do you have those other increases that you're, I remember seeing what they suggested on that presentation, but.
The only ones I have are the transportation and parks, and that's what I shared with council.
Yeah.
And again, right now, we're working through those. They asked for an input for a list of potential transportation park projects. We sent that, but they just lumped everything on there and updated it, even though we're having a bigger discussion on what they can actually complete during the time period. And ours was looking at going up, I think it was, I'd have to pull it up. I hate to throw a number out there. But realistically, probably the discussion we're having now is to take some of those projects off because projects that were on there in the previous one they adopted 10, 12 years ago still haven't been completed. So we are looking at some that we have probably too many on that list that can be completed in a timely manner. So there's still some discussion that's going to be taking place there. That's not finalized yet. That was just their first walkthrough of it that they sent it out and wanted us to know what we were looking at. The parks one actually stayed the same.
So nothing about the fire?
Haven't not seen anything about the fire yet, no sir.
Or the solid waste or?
They're
Right, if you
definitely-
recall, there originally was even EMS and there was a lot of different proposals at the very beginning.
The only two of them I know that they're looking at updating right now outside of this is the recreation and the transportation.
So I've heard, just for maybe Richardson and you to take notes, did you mention the LMI, just really trying to rehash that again to protect our affordable housing? Anyone who wants to do it. I mean, that we got to keep that in. The legal questions on the 5-year, because I assumed what they said I believed, but we need to make sure that's in there. And I will tell you, I'm looking over at this list again. I looked at it last night. So much of this, 120 million of this, which makes this number so big, anticipated in South. That concerns me. And it's big, which means it's going to be bigger by the time 2029 gets here or 2026. And I had called some people in the school district. The biggest question I've had is, where are they going to build? And for the life of me, I've looked 10 acres to 50 acres. I haven't seen a place in Bluffton and I know our kids are going to go to school in the zip code area, might not be in the town limits. For the life of me, I don't know where this is. And I urged who I talked to today to I wish you'd start thinking a little bit out of the box, the way other big growing places do, and let's look at where we already built. Like, is there a place to expand other than May River, which I still need, I want to make sure that's been agreed to too. Now we're
And
looking.
We did receive some more information about the May River location, but we need to,
I want
we have some
confirmation
questions
that,
we need
right,
resolved
so
on
we
that.
need a legal opinion on, is it capped off at 1,400, and if it is, and we're already sunk, let's look over that. I know the district doesn't want 3,500 kid schools, and I don't know that any of us have ever experienced that, but our children could go to 1,800. I mean, 1,800, it's already 1,500. So I don't think it'd be a positive vote if we move forward tonight. I really don't, listening to y'all. So did we capture everything?
I think we have, and I'm in agreement. I think we need to table this, and we need to work on it a little bit more.
But I want everyone who's watching that thinks they're going to annex into our town, number one, it hadn't done so well lately because we haven't, said yes. Whoever thinks that, the fees, the county is charging the fees right now. And if you're thinking of coming into town to get away from that, that ain't happening. We're going to have to collect them for the county on that, and we will do so. Right.
Madam Mayor, members of council, just for further direction, I assume that Terry's going to get back in communication with Beaufort County's attorneys, but in particular, Councilman Wood, the comment that you made about the 50% increase and the unilateral ability to do that at least once during the 10-year term of the agreement, without trying to get you to make a decision one way or another tonight as to how you feel about that. I imagine I don't think that's anywhere within the state statute. I'm not aware of it being in the ordinance for Beaufort County. So I'm assuming it is just a provision they've put into the agreement that's subject to negotiation. Just for further direction, my assumption is that y'all want us to negotiate that completely out of the agreement. So any change other than inflation would have to come back to council.
And then the 5-year stopgap, make sure. If we can do it less, it'd be great. I don't know.
And I'll talk about that. I know without giving y'all too much, I guess, throwing too much information out. I think everything, all the projects have to be paid out within 3 years of when the impact fees are collected. So that's kind of why they build out this 10-year term with looking at the development as they anticipate it. So we can certainly ask them for that 5-year review and what your rights would be during that 5-year review if that you feel that the impact fees aren't being properly allocated south of the broad and within the town.
Can I, because I'll forget because I'm older. No, I'm not older, you're older than me. I spoke with someone today and it was more of an accounting question. And maybe add this, will we get a monthly, quarterly, annual accounting and where exactly it's going? And if it does go outside our zip code, what are the clawback? Because I see 1, 2, anticipated land, anticipated in the south, but wonder if it's not. Then that's, what do we do with that?
So my understanding, and I'll let Richard clarify if I misstep here, is if it's collected in south of the broad, it has to be spent in south of the broad.
Okay.
So they cannot spend it legally north of the broad. Now, when it says district-wide, it may mean that they've done something in Okatee,
right,
but it's still in that south of the broad area. So they can't go north.
And I will also say too, we receive an annual impact fee report, I believe, on all of our impact fees. However, I have discussed with Jared Fralix, just among some other discussions, that it may be something that staffs on both Beaufort County as well as the town of Bluffton or the other municipalities in the South region, if they adopt the intergovernmental agreement, to have a monthly meeting or quarterly meeting or something to do exactly that. Where are we at? Some even staff things, how are we calculating it just to make sure we're consistent? But if you'd like that included in the agreement to solidify that, we can look into that as well.
And Stephen, a follow up with that. And I agree. I've swallowed something wrong, y'all. I'm not sick. But the service area says south so clearly. And then in other places it says anticipated or district-wide, so I don't know why they wouldn't just put south on all of it. The service area, Stephen made a great point, you know, it may be in Okatee, but everything is south. Why isn't district-wide, why doesn't that say south? You know, and not anticipated in the south, that.
Yeah, when they presented it, they used the word south of the Broad.
But look right there.
I see what you're saying, it's not, I don't read it on here. And that's.
It was spelled out, as Richardson said, that the monies collected will be spent south of the Broad.
And that's statutory. That comes from the General Assembly. There has to be a defined service area within these impact fee ordinances that are adopted. And the service area, from my review of this, appears to be south of the Broad. So fees collected from these impact fees for new construction occurring south of the Broad needs to be spent on the school system and school south of the Broad. But I think, you know, to be honest, I'm sure there's flexibility in that too, and it's not something that we want to get into. So we'll try to make sure that we clean that up and make sure we've got everything covered.
And I'd like to interject one other thing too, man. And you just stated, Heather, that one of the things to put in the agreement is to have like a monthly meeting to go over like finance and stuff involved with it. Something I brought up at the last meeting I'd like to see, and that language drafted in that too, is there has to be some type of collaboration with the school district and our officials here too, because you know, we cannot be building schools to max capacity on day one. It kind of defeats the purpose, because you know there's gonna be a need to accommodate that overflow. And so if we're gonna be always footing the bill and stuff like that, we've got to be building schools with regards to whatever our predictions of residential units and families and other things coming into the area are.
I mean, Fred, poor Fred raised his hand. Yes, then I'll do you.
We have worked diligently to establish an affordable housing identity for Bluffton, and Bluffton has been the only municipality in Beaufort County that shows true interest in having an affordable concept and tried to have that inventory. We've scrubbed this thing so many times, and now we finally came up with a formula that we think is going to give us diversity, which is from all workforce areas, from 60 to 100% AMI. We discussed that with developers. We discussed that with our partner that we're trying to build on the property that we have. So with their proposal to us, they only want to cover 60 to 60 AMI. That kills our program. That kills our diversity that we want to make sure we have a sense of community for Bluffton.
Okay. Anything else?
I was just making a point here where, you know, every one of these things, you know, the 9 classrooms, the 13, it says district-wide, south, district-wide, anticipated south, south, and then another anticipated. You know, even these schools, these huge $53 million schools, it's anticipated in the south, but it doesn't say where it's going to be, you know, for sure, but I don't know. I think we need to table it and think about it and
So do we need to vote on the
figure
table?
out something better than what we got.
We get that language cleaned up? I mean, let's go back and ask that question. And
Did you take all those notes?
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
I think the word anticipate is making people nervous.
I made sure that's one of my 7 notes that I have to bring back. And yes, ma'am, we would need to actually move to table this. And you can just move to table it to the next meeting, or move to postpone it to the next meeting.
Do we have to put next meeting? I don't want to put a lot.
Or then you can just move to table it.
Okay. With the concerns and questions we need answered and didn't get answers to, is there a motion to table?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye. Aye. Good questions, council. Next is the number 3, right? Consideration of amendments of Town of Bluffton Codes of Ordinances, Chapter 23, Article 3, Section 323A, public hearing notice. This is first reading. I think we have found short months mess us up, don't they?
Yes, ma'am. This month is one of them. So.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We are here this evening. This is for a proposed text amendment to change the time frame that we have for public notices for, this is specifically for a text amendment to the Unified Development Ordinance. Currently, we require 30-day notification. It's typically in the island packet. We also supplementally, we will post on the agenda on the town website. We will post a copy at Town Hall at the front door. And then we send out the agendas to all those that are registered to receive the town emails. I believe that's a list of over 900 individuals that are on that. So the reasons for the proposed amendments is for consistency with state law and then consistency with our town zoning map amendment. So if someone does a rezoning, it's only a 15-day notice. And then just the greater efficiency in regards to the text amendments. So this is a table that is located in the Unified Development Ordinance. I've highlighted the area where you can see literally we're changing the text from 30 to 15. These are consistent with the review criteria that were listed in the staff report. I'm happy to go over them. Planning Commission did recommend to approve this text amendment. You have the authority this evening to approve the application, approve it with amendments, or to deny the applications. As you said, this is first reading. For second reading, we actually had to provide a notice 2 days ago for a second reading before we even had the first reading.
Hoping we were going to have the first reading.
Yes. So I have a proposed motion for you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Seems to help staff not
Makes
fret.
common sense to me, Kevin.
I don't know how we-
totally.
Okay, if nothing else, is there a motion to approve the amendments to the Town of Bluffton Code of Ordinances, Chapter 23, UDO, Article 3, Application Process, Section 3.2.3A, Public Hearing Notice, Timing of Public Notice Requirements for UDO Text Amendments?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Moving on to number 4, consideration of an approval and amendment to the initial master plan for property referred to as parcel 10D, located within Buckwalter Planned Unit Development for residential uses consisting of 26.8 acres and 1.3 acres of commercial, located at the intersection of Bluffton Parkway and Hampton Parkway.
Great. Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you stated, this is a request for amendment to include parcel 10D into the existing parcel 10A, 10B master plan. Just to give you some a project location highlighted in yellow, somewhat difficult to see, is that existing master plan. And the applicant is proposing to include the area that is located in red into this master plan. Again, from an aerial standpoint, you can see it's the location where it is with Buckwalter Place. Mystic Bluff Apartments is part of that 10A. 10B has all of the approval, and I believe it's actually starting construction for another apartment complex with the SC Bodner Group. I believe it's called the LELLE Apartments. And then this portion right here will also be included into that master plan. As stated, this is part of the Buckwalter concept plan. It's 28 acres, approximately 19 acres is in wetlands, which leaves only 8.6 acres. The applicant is proposing 4 residential lots. He already has the allocated rights for these residential lots, so he has the ability to construct them, as well as 1 commercial lot on 1.3 acres. And the Planning Commission did vote at their January 26th meeting to recommend approval of this application. Again, here's a copy of the current master plan for 10A, 10B. Give you a second. You can see over in the corner here is Buckwalter Place. This is Mystic Bluff, and then the L Apartments here.
go back to that, if you don't mind. The roadway's already put in there? The roadway already connects to Buckwalter Place?
Yes,
like
ma'am,
walked
sure
out.
does, sure does, yes. And then you can see here, I've highlighted again in yellow, what is that existing portion of the master plan and what is in red. Now, again, these 4 lots, you can see there's tons of it that's in the wetlands. So it wasn't really conducive for any full type of development or any type of commercial development, but the applicant had those additional units. They would then, if approved, would be subdivided off and then sold off to an individual that would then just go to get a building permit for a house. Obviously, the house would be located on the uplands area. We have the review criteria that are listed in your staff report. I'm happy to go over them if you have any questions. I believe that the applicant is here as well, Mr. Whitmer, in case you have any questions for him. This evening, you have the authority to approve this application, approve it with conditions, or to deny the applications, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions, Kevin?
Kevin, I do have one. There's utilities already there, sewer?
I am not exactly sure. It would be located on Hampton Parkway. If sewer is not located, they would be required to install the necessary utilities.
They wouldn't be able to put in a septic system that close to
No,
the
sir.
wetland.
No septic system.
That's all I have.
Okay.
Is Lot 5 off of the road that goes to the fire station? Is that road?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions? So you know sewer would be required?
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
Great, okay.
Yep.
For that whole area?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. It's nice to see 5 lots and not 150 lots. Okay, any other questions? If not, is there a motion to approve the master plan for property referred to as parcel 10D to be added to the 10A, 10B master plan located within the Buckwalter PUD with residential uses consisting of approximately 26 acres and 1.3 acres of commercial uses as identified by Beaufort County tax number is listed?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Well, just the commercial, I'm guessing, is Lot 5.
Yes.
Because of the parking.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. Your number 5.
Yes, ma'am.
Consideration of approval of a master plan for property referred to as parcel 9B and 9C within the New Riverside Plan Development for residential development consisting of 3 parcels located near the intersection of Old Palmetto Bluff Road and Palmetto Bluff Road.
Great, thank you, Madam Mayor. As you stated, we are here for, this is the parcel 9B, 9C. The applicant, Mike Hughes with Thomas & Hutton, is here in the audience in case you have any questions for him. So this is a master plan. I'll just give you a project location. You can see I've highlighted in red the area that we're referring to, highlighted some of the areas of the Palmetto Bluff entrance, Old Palmetto Bluff Road, the lakes at New Riverside, as well as New Riverside Road itself to give you a proximity to this site. Again, same thing here. This is a copy of the application. They are proposing a 10-lot subdivision on the proposed acreage. You can see it would be in essence, a cul-de-sac loop system. These would be larger lots, anywhere from 1 to 1.5, potentially 2 acres of each lot. The applicant does have the assignment of rights for this location, and it's hopefully you're able to see. From a planning standpoint, they have the main entrance coming off here. It would be a gated community, very little traffic associated with this. There is an emergency vehicle access point here that would use the existing roadbed and then would allow for fire truck access. So there is that alternative to provide that. As stated, this is part of that New Riverside PUD. The 10 lots with the associated utilities and infrastructure. So yes, water, sewer would be connected to this site. The access is off of Old Palmetto Bluff Road. They would be connecting their stormwater lagoon system into the existing lagoon system that's associated with parcel 9. 6 of the lots would have that potential access of just private docks on, would be a freshwater area. And then the other lots would have a community dock on the northern side as an amenity. This was reviewed by the Development Review Committee, and one of the items that came up, and I'll go into it just very briefly, if I go back to the plan here, the New Riverside PUD requires a 50-foot buffer along the entire perimeter of it. So because of the location of this square parcel right here that is owned by the applicant, there was a requirement of a 50-foot buffer around this area. The applicant went in front of the Board of Zoning Appeals and requested a variance to allow for the reduction of that 50-foot buffer, and that was granted. So the applicant is still required to have a 50-foot buffer along the entire perimeter. Again, they own this piece of property.
Okay.
Yes, so they do own that. And that is in unincorporated Beaufort County. That has a rural designation, so even if there was any type of development on that, that would be one single family that would be allowed on that lot. So just wanted to let you know about that in there. And that the Planning Commission did vote to approve or recommend approval of this master plan to Town Council. The review criteria have all been reviewed and they are consistent. I'm happy to go over them if you have any questions on them. This evening you can take the actions of approving this application, approving it with conditions, or to deny the application. And I'm happy to answer any questions. And as I stated, Mr. Hughes is here to be able to answer any questions.
Yes, sir, Mr. Hamilton?
When I read my packet, I thought I knew where this was. Now, looking at it, I can't. I'm lost.
Thought you knew where it was?
I thought I did.
Off of Old Palmetto Bluff.
Yeah,
Road?
so right here, if you can see on the
Palmetto Bluff.
yeah on the map, just here's the entrance to Palmetto Bluff right here. So right before you get to that entrance is New Riverside Road.
Right.
Further up, this area right here, that's the town's BMP that we've had. Stormwater pond for various years. So you would be coming down Old Palmetto Bluff Road, and then there would just be a little side road that you would enter before you got into Palmetto Bluff.
Brad, they call the new road Old Palmetto Bluff Road.
Yes. I know.
That gets confusing if you've been
Old
here
road
forever.
is the new road, yes.
The old road is not there.
So is that owned by Palmetto Bluff?
It's owned by Pritchard Farms LLC.
No, I'm sorry. Palmetto Bluff Road. Do they have to grant access, but even though they have access on Palmetto Bluff Road, a county road or state road, or is it private?
Old Palmetto Bluff Road is where they'll be receiving their access from, which is
Yes.
Palmetto Bluff.
Okay, and
Yes.
they have been granted access by Palmetto Bluff.
I'm going to look to Mr. Hughes to confirm that.
Oh, that's
Okay,
not Mike
I'm sorry.
Hughes.
That is not Mike Hughes.
That is not.
This is
brother.
I'll let Mr. Moore respond to that one.
That's his brother from another mother.
John Moore with Thomas and Hutton. Good evening. Yes, as part of they purchased this from New Riverside LLC. As part of that purchase, New Riverside LLC granted them access for up to 10 units off of Old Palmetto Bluff Road.
Just another, maybe just a reminder for whoever owns this, that zoning in the county, we always stick with residential, what they do. So it still is 1 per 3 acres.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just don't want to upset the county in that matter. More
Understand.
houses on extra parcels. And sewer water.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Absolutely.
We're still in the county. We're not annexing that anymore.
No.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I want clarity now.
Yes.
Larry asked the question and then it came up again. Doesn't any development or any new development, no matter if what PUD they're in or whatever, have to have sewer now?
Yes, sir.
So we don't need to ask that question.
No,
Well,
you do not.
I won't ask it anymore tonight.
Well said, Mr. Hamilton.
But I might ask about it next month. Any other questions that haven't been asked prior? Motion to approve the initiative.
Mayor, I have a couple questions real
Okay.
quick.
Just make sure you hadn't asked them before.
Well, they're from other projects, but tree buffers, you know, one of the things we've tried to establish is to the boundary of tree buffers can't be taken into consideration when they do the tree topo and clear cutting. Are those playing into this at all?
Good question.
So, yes, sir, absolutely. Okay, so as you can see, there's already we have the 50-foot buffer on the southern portion.
Okay.
Properties that are located here. There's additional area beyond just that 50-foot buffer. Again, this is a conceptual plan.
Okay.
We haven't had the final plan. The intent is to install the infrastructure of the roadway, and then each individual lot would then would be designed around that. So they're not going in, they're not clear cutting all of these lots in order to then put the buildings on there.
Thank you. Second question, the emergency access that you mentioned, is that a recommendation or, a requirement from the county?
That's something that we specifically told them that they were required to do.
Okay. So as a guy that used to manage big trucks, and I've dealt with these issues where there's emergency access, what is the subsurface?
I'm going to let the applicant speak to that real quick.
Thank you.
Is utilizing existing gravel.
Yeah, we'll be sure when we work through the actual designs, we'll work with Dan Wiltsey and make sure that he's above board or on board with what we're designing.
You might, Kevin, note that.
Sorry?
You note that, whatever the subsurface is, that it qualifies. So I'm assuming it's not just an EMS, it could be a fire truck?
Yes, sir, that's the intent. It'll be a gravel surface of some sort, and they may elect to do a grass pave over it if they want to, like some similar projects in Bluffton, you delineate the fire lane.
Thank you.
That's reviewed during the development plan review process.
Thank you.
Kevin, this is the only time we see it, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'm really glad that Dan brought that up on the trees, because that's not something we have passed yet.
No,
The
ma'am.
tree buffer. So this is the time to make your requirements known in the buffer. The other thing, the grading plan that we passed when Brian was here, that is what you meant by they're going to do one lot at a time because of that grading plan that we passed, or does that not fall under this agreement? But you said they were doing that. How do we make sure it's going to be abided by?
That is during the stormwater review process. So what we are starting to do now with the addition to the stormwater review, they are required to meet all of they are required to meet the code requirements. We hold a meeting prior to them submitting their development plan to ensure that they are reducing the amount of grading that they are doing throughout their project. Specifically with this one, the intent was to make sure that they just cut in the infrastructure, install that, and then each lot would then come online. Each lot is then most likely will be required to have their own stormwater requirements associated with it. So that way they're, in essence, filtering and holding water on their site, and then it's ultimately released.
Just careful attention, and quality is far better than quantity, and I'm going to really watch these two
Yes.
tonight, because I think this is a lot of quality in it, but to ride there and all of a sudden, because that road's kind of there now, and to see all the trees come down,
Right.
it's not good. But that buffer, can we not require it to remain the way it is and not go in and clear it?
Yes, ma'am. That will be an undisturbed buffer.
Undisturbed, and we
Yes,
know
ma'am.
that. Okay,
Yes,
we
ma'am.
don't have to put that in any motion.
No, ma'am. Yeah, on the
that-
southern portion,
Okay.
correct.
Okay. Then my final just concern is that stormwater pond that we worked really hard to get donated to us. I just want to make sure it doesn't hurt it. Is it working? Is the stormwater plans, the whatever they're called, here, is it complement what we're doing to the north of it with the current?
I will make sure to work with watershed management during that time.
Okay, Kim's shaking her head. Okay.
I would think that it would help, not hurt, so.
So, do we not do this? I've lost it. We haven't made that motion.
No,
Or
ma'am.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Is there a motion to move on to approve the initial master plan for property referred to as parcel 9B and 9C located within the new Riverside Plan Unit development? This project proposes a residential development of 3 parcels identified by the Beaufort County tax map numbers as shown on this agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Great job. Thank you. We do have a consent agenda list of 7 items, all very important. If there's anything on there y'all like to pull off to discuss separately, speak now.
Yes, I'd like to pull item 5 off.
We'll pull off item 5. Chris is not here. And were y'all aware maybe? Okay, great. So item 5, is there anything else? If not, is there a motion to pass the consent agenda with the exception of item number 5?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye. Aye. That, any opposed? That's unanimous. So item 5. Mr. Stees? Bridget, do you have questions on item 5, or are they prepared to talk a little bit more about it?
This is the first I've heard about it being pulled off, so.
Oh, okay, okay. You would ask for item 5, so I'm going to put it in your hands.
Yeah, I just wanted to know what the community foundation's role would be with the ARPA funds. Are they the ones who will be, the applications will go through them and they will be dispersing?
Yes, ma'am, that would be the goal, is we would, they would handle the application process, and what we're talking about with them is setting up a review board of 7 members. 3 would come from the foundation, 3 would come from council recommendation, and then Chris Forrester would serve as the 7th as finance on there, and they would be the ones reviewing all the applications and making the recommendations. For the first round, it is recommended as part of the program that it is only for nonprofits that are located inside the town limits, and they're capped at $20,000. One of the reasons we wanted to use the foundation for this is to remove council from a lot of the application process, just because all the nonprofits reaching out and asking council to play favorites. We also have several council members that serve on boards of the foundations that would be making applications into the town, and we would hate to put council in a situation where they have to pick winners and losers of boards that they either really love, represent, or serve on. So that's why we looked at partnering with the foundation to help with this process.
And are they being paid a fee to handle it for us?
Their fee is a 2%, and if council wants to make sure that the ARPA funds continue 100% get dispersed, we can look at having a conversation about paying that 2% out of general fund savings or something that we may have to help offset, to make sure that all the funds get dispersed out.
And that'll be 2% of both disbursements, the ones for businesses and the ones for nonprofits?
Yes, ma'am. So right now, the one for the nonprofits, we're looking to start that one very soon, probably the next week or 2. The ones for the businesses, we're still working on the guidelines for it, and it probably will not be done for, it'd probably be 4 to 6 weeks behind this one.
Can I ask a question, Stephen? Would you just double check on their fee for nonprofits? Just maybe, I mean, I know y'all have done so much work on it, but maybe Chris can just double check and make sure they're aware that some of this money is going to nonprofits, because I don't want to misspeak, but.
So they don't charge the nonprofits anything. They charge a 2% administrative fee for handling the.
Okay.
Yeah, handling the administrative process and handling correct. Because we're using their 501c3, so they're.
They are a nonprofit.
Yes, sir.
They are a nonprofit.
So they keep 2% administrative fee.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Bridget, I had almost those same questions today when I met with Stephen and Chris. And council is supposed to select this committee or this ad hoc committee to decide which nonprofit in Bluffton gets these funds. I want to make sure that I'm on that committee, if that's what we're going to have. But I also believe if council or that ad hoc committee decides who gets the money, I don't like the language that the Lowcountry Foundation would have to approve who gets the money if we already made that decision.
Well, we're giving them the guidelines of it.
But we also going to say what nonprofit in Bluffton we would like to see get the money. Isn't that what the ad hoc committee?
So the 7-member board will make the decision on who gets the money, and that will be made up of 3 members from the foundation, 3 that council would put on there, and then Chris. So that y'all wouldn't be making the recommendation for the funding. That group will be reviewing the applications and making the recommendations.
I still didn't get it. Maybe you went over my head a little bit. So
They basically would look at an application and then go through the criteria to see if the applicant meets the criteria that we say they have to meet, right?
Yes, sir.
And then if an application comes, just like coming to us, if there's nothing wrong with it, then they're recommended to get it.
And what we put in the guidelines is that because Hilton Head's gone through their first process with this, they went through just like what we're recommended to do, going to the foundation in Lowcountry. They had way more applications than they had funding to give, so they weren't able to award to everybody. So what we put in here is that we want to give priority to those that served low and moderate income citizens. Would be the top priority for any nonprofits that would get funding. So we have established that if there is enough funds to go around, that it would be prioritized to low to moderate incomes citizens that were served.
I kind of think of it as based on kind of similar to an ATAX committee. You know, we've set the policy of what it is, and it keeps us from being accused of taking care of pet nonprofits. I just think it's a good arm's length way, and we're going to have 4 people on there. I guess my question, and I don't want to be on it. If you think I'm curious what Hilton Head, do they put their elected officials on it just to know I don't have to do what they do?
I'd have to research, and I can email you and see, but I don't think they did.
I don't think that's a good idea myself. I just don't. I mean, I'm on a nonprofit. He's on a nonprofit. Bridget's got nonprofits. I mean, we could all go. We all want to be on the committee. I mean, that's just not a good idea.
I don't want to be on it because I'm on a nonprofit. Matter of fact, if I go on it, I would excuse any nonprofit that I'm on. I want to make sure that the money goes to the executive order that was presented from President Biden that says it has to serve underserved communities. I want to make sure that I have a voice in that.
No, I want to be on the committee.
Okay.
One thing.
The criteria would come back to us for final
you're on the
approval?
No,
The criteria is in the packet. That's what we're talking about.
we're trying to keep
No, I
us.
mean the criteria for an applicant.
It's what's in the packet that is part of the thing. It's just the one page. It's very simple. We wanted to make it as simple as possible, which is you had to show that you were financially impacted related to COVID, and you were a nonprofit, and you serve, you were inside Bluffton, serving residents inside Bluffton, and that you were negatively impacted through the COVID.
Madam Mayor, if I may just interject for a moment about town council members serving on this committee. Again, just briefly skimming through this memorandum of agreement, I would kind of make an analogy to the Don Ryan Center, where you have members who serve in an ex officio capacity on the Don Ryan Center board, but aren't actually voting members. And the reason that we've set up that arrangement is because of dual office holding issues. So anytime that you have an appointed committee, whether it's something like the Don Ryan Center or your Board of Zoning Appeals, and it's doing something with the distribution of town money, you have to be really careful and make sure that we don't accidentally appoint you to a committee, and by serving a second office, you forfeit the earlier office, which would be your town council seat. And so we want to make sure that we're being very careful on that. So I think it's important that I'll look into it, I'll research that, and I will have a response for you shortly.
We are voting on the setup of this, not the committee yet.
Correct.
That's right. Yes, ma'am.
So I think all of you need to, I don't want to be on it. And I
either.
sit on a nonprofit too, but I don't want, you see what you get accused of doing and you don't even do it. I don't want to put y'all, any of y'all in that position. So think about it. We've got to follow the law on it. If it comes back the way Richardson says, or not, is there anything wrong with council attending these things if they so want to? As an ex officio. I'm just trying to.
I personally, again, I think your point about ATAX is well made. I mean, I don't think that an elected person, I mean, I'm in different of opinion with Fred, but I don't think we should be sitting on this organization and trying to control it. I mean, that's why we're appointing people. We're picking people that we're going to appoint. If we don't like the way they're doing their job, we can remove them. But it's a conflict.
At the end of the day, Dan, we still approve it.
Well,
It comes to us
It's
and
a
we
direct conflict if you sit there at that table.
Yeah. Well, let's.
I'll just say one last thing to Fred's point. I don't have a desire to be on the board, but I understand, and I think we should definitely hear the point he's trying to make in a sense of if the funds were earmarked to go to nonprofits serving underserved and underrepresented groups, we are saying we're removed because of whatever biases we may have. It sounds like Fred is saying let's ensure that those same groups or whoever the parties are involved don't have biases also, and the people that the money was intended to be dispersed to ultimately get shut out of this process too. So it's kind of like, how do we ensure that they're gonna abide by the will that we request to serve those Bluffton underserved nonprofits?
Amen.
So that's a fear of mine too.
Amen, Bridget. But they're not gonna get it, so let it go.
No. I've listened to Bridget for months over this, and you bring this question up every single time about the intent of it. Are our guidelines, first of all, you need to do the research. Are our guidelines strict enough that it protects that group? And I don't know what group we're thinking could not be looked at, but you'll decide with your legal work, and I just think we all need to caution ourselves on that. So let's make sure that the criteria says that. I mean, should we add? Should we add in the criteria?
I just know from the onset when we first talked about it, I've had a complete trust with Stephen and Chris in the sense of they would ensure who's supposed to get it is going to get it. Going to a separate foundation, I don't really have that same trust, and not say that they wouldn't do it, because they do an amazing job of how they disperse funds. But in the sense of this isn't like it's open for all nonprofits. It's specifically for those serving underserved, underrepresented communities who ordinarily did not have the same access to the PPP funds that larger nonprofits had. So,
is there any wording in here that you want to? And that you can add to it, and we can get the wordsmithing of it, that ensures that is being taken care of. Because I think the criteria is really good, but it doesn't speak about what you have said for 4 or 5 months now.
Right.
And I have heard you. And I don't want Fred to feel like we're not going to focus on that either. So
I think I would trust Stephen and Chris's on that, because like I said, they had a great idea, concept of it initially when the thought was Bluffton was going to be in control of its funds. So I think they understand.
But is it
where we are
under the criteria, Mr. Steese, does it speak to the intent of what the fund, does it speak more clearly to that we could add, or?
Well,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Let me ask you, Mayor, and I hear this discussion, but it's talking about people that had a hardship during this period of time. But if you look at the very last sentence, requirements include on your screen.
Yeah.
And look at number 8.
That's where I'm going.
On my screen?
Wait a minute. I don't see number 8.
Okay.
Whoa, where's it going?
And are we on draft?
Right there.
Memorandum of agreement? Oh, okay. A final report is required and must include information related to income levels, race, and ethnicity of the population served by this grant. Does that final report come to the town?
That's part of the application.
Okay. So does that help? Do you want to, it's just how do you want to make it any clearer?
And the other thing is I don't want council to feel like they're pressured that they have to approve this tonight. The schedule you have on there was anticipated with it being approved tonight. If there's some things that we want to take a look at, we want to make adjustments to, council has all authority to do that. And we can always delay the application process. I don't think there's anything that's, there's the only thing that we're trying to do is get the funds out as soon as we can, since we have them. If they're delayed 30 days, then most of these people have already been negatively impacted and are still surviving. But the goal was to try to get the funds out as soon as we could. But I also don't want to put something out that council is not 100%, supportive of.
I think a week more with some people are hanging on to a cliff. I mean, I personally don't want to wait 30 days because 30 days could get rid of many people in need. And we're talking about the need, not the wishes and the wants.
It's going to take 30 days for them to get all this paperwork together once they get the application.
So, Bridget, I go back is there something that, or Fred or anybody or Richardson, you've heard this, is there something we can add in this motion to put more meat on it so we can get moving with the board, so you can do research? And if it says we can hold dual offices, and I mean, we're all grown people sitting up here, just have to be very careful about what we do. And y'all have seen me go through it. So you've got to be careful.
Since nobody's being appointed tonight, that portion of it, we can delay, we don't have to address tonight. The question about, is this clear enough as to the purpose and the communities that this is going to serve and the nonprofit organizations that this is intended to serve? Is it too broad about what nonprofits could qualify? You can include something in your motion that this is, we're approving this agreement subject to staff and the town attorney revising the agreement to clarify that this is to be specific as to and Councilwoman Frazier, I'm going to
we'll leave it to you
to use that language, so that we can, again, make it crystal clear what this is supposed to do, who it's supposed to serve, and make sure that we add enough information in there about the reporting requirements and what they provide to y'all. I mean, I feel comfortable because the main idea is the creation of a separate organization to, distribute these funds in accordance with President Biden's order, and to have the town have, limited say in the selection of who those are. But y'all want to review this to make sure that it goes out to the right groups. So I think we're there, but if you want to include that language in the motion, I think it would help us be able to really beef this up.
I agree.
Right, I'll interject, and then Councilman Hamilton has been a big proponent here too. I'm just concerned. I see that this essentially could be for any nonprofit, even those not necessarily serving low to moderate citizens. It's a preference, but I see the language says it's not exclusive to just those organizations. So the fair would be is those who don't come with that preference may get the grant or may qualify before those who is actually intended for would get it. So that'd be my fair. If it's left vague like that, then anybody who's a nonprofit could apply for this.
Is that better than really being clear that this is the wishes of the Biden, what you've been saying?
Yeah, because it was earmarked for those like serving the underserved or underrepresented groups. So let's say, if I have a nonprofit organization, and I'm just throwing it out there, that provides blankets to cats, you know, and I want to apply for funding. If I'm a 501c3 with the requirements, then I would qualify for that. But that's not an underrepresented, underserved group. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I think like if we can't be vague or ambiguous in that, because that my fear is that those who really need it wouldn't be able to get the funds before they run out.
So could we pass this to get things moving, to get to the committee with language that you could add?
Absolutely.
Bridget or Mr. Hamilton's thoughts?
I think so. I think it's very clear what the intent of this agreement is. There's going to be some wordsmithing that's going to be required. Again, clarity as to the selection process and when the excess funds can be distributed to community groups that are not the intended recipients under the Biden administration's proposal. So I think we can do that. I feel confident based off of what I've heard tonight that we can tighten this up, but that y'all can still adopt it in that way. We're not slowed down in releasing these funds.
But your language will be utilizing what they're saying about the Biden intent. That's what you'll use as a guide.
Absolutely.
Well, on these requirements, these are as clear as mud too. I mean, it mentions certain documents and all that, but are there limits? I mean, you know, you're on your financial statements and I mean, I would think that you have to show where you had a loss, so to speak.
Correct, and that's what
it's intended for, the ones that.
Right, so it says the impact could be evidenced by a decrease in revenue, diminishing financial resources that affect the capacity to weather future financial hardships, challenging covering payroll, rent, mortgage, or increased costs because of responding to COVID. So they have to prove to us that they have been impacted in that way, specifically related to COVID. So for some, it may be purchasing PPE and sanitizing equipment. For some, it may be they weren't able to have fundraising events, and thus they lost revenue and they had to cut a program and they are needing funding. So it could be any number of things that they can document that's been related to COVID and how it's impacted them being able to reach out and serve the community.
So I think we all have that wish that the intent of what we've known this money was for to be used to it. But we all know the groups that are already coming and calling all of us, you know, and some of those just aren't going to be the ones that should qualify. Yeah. So that's why we got to put the intent, if it's 3 words, but I do think we got to get moving. We've had this money. There are groups that desperately need it, and there are groups that just hope they get it. So I want to make it clear.
Lisa, they've heard enough to go back and wordsmith it.
Okay. Are you comfortable with the motion based on their wordsmithing? Are y'all comfortable with them, us moving this on with the ability for them to wordsmith it to include the intent of Biden's original intent?
Well, it's just those basic words, underserved, underrepresented, and
okay.
I think they have
the order right here.
Thank you. Prevention. I mean, we could be that simple: to advance racial equity and support for the underserved communities. Or do you, I mean, that's his intent, but do you want to word it?
The problem that I've tried to make sure is that I think I know the underserved community better than anybody in this room. That's what I think.
Well, if you don't, if you can still be a council member and be on it, then you are a grown man.
I'm a part of the underserved community myself.
But you don't want to give up your council seat just to sit on let him figure, that's not tonight. That is a decision that Fred will have to make. It may not be a decision.
And that's something that we'll absolutely look into, the problem with that dual office holding. And it's a constitutional prohibition, and it's one that we have to rely on Attorney General's opinions, and they're a little bit all over the place. And so it's kind of like trying to pin Jello, I guess, to a wall and trying to figure out when it hits and when it doesn't. But I will get you a written opinion on that, Councilman Hamilton, and so that we'll have we'll have something definitive as to that. But as far as this agreement, if y'all, because based on what I've heard tonight, y'all want to move this forward because you don't want to delay any longer, giving us the discretion to really rework this to make it, bring to the forefront the underserved and unrepresented communities are intended to be the primary recipients of this, and that the preference should always go to those communities in accordance with President Biden's executive order. I think we can do that, and it's making sure that we work with the Community Foundation to make sure they have the paperwork and the processes to manage that.
One idea is to have the committee sign off and read this order. I mean, I think there has to be some education in this anyway. So,
Absolutely.
okay, so are we comfortable with Pat making a motion to allow the wordsmithing to reflect the intent of President Biden? Is that broad enough to cover? Or is that
I'm good with that.
specific enough? Well, I'm gonna throw it out there, and y'all don't like it. Let me know. I've lost it. So, thank you. I just lost it where I was. So is there a motion to approve the memorandum of agreement between the Town of Bluffton and the Community Foundation of the Lowcountry for administration of the ARPA Nonprofit Assistance Grant Program, and to allow our town attorney and town manager to reword the important areas to show the true intent of what President Biden intended in his order?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Is that good? You can always amend the amendment. Okay, all in favor, state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you for doing that, Richardson. It's at 8 o'clock. Can I keep going? Thank you. I've lost my agenda. Moving on down. We are ready to go. Is there a motion to adjourn? Good night, everybody.